guys, welcome back to my channel, and for all of you who are new, welcome. It is so exciting to see how quickly this channel is growing. I didn't realize there was so much interest in like hygiene, so that's really cool. We're very glad to have you here and welcome to the family. So last week, the last 10 days, I was in Thailand for my vacation, and so obviously there was no video last week. This week's gonna be a little more relaxed. We're gonna talk about my experience in the clinical hygiene boards, and then I've got some fun stuff coming up. Next week I think we're doing a bleaching strips review, and then I'm hoping the week after that to do an interview. I got some feelers out right now for some male hygienists in the area that I'm hoping will do an interview with me, because I am getting questions from guys that are interested in hygiene, and as a woman, I can't really answer those. So I am looking for some male hygienists in my area that can answer your guys' questions. So I'm hopefully gonna get somebody on here that can do that for you guys. So in the meantime, let's get on with today. So this is my story of how my clinical boards went, and I hope you enjoy it. So as you know, I am a Colorado native, but I did do my dental hygiene out in Southern California, and I always knew I'd be coming back to Colorado. So the way the hygiene clinical boards work is there's like the national board, which is the written board, which is standardized, and then there's the clinical boards, and the clinical boards are different via state and via region. So being in California, California had their own boards. I think Florida has their own boards. I think Hawaii has their own boards. And then pretty much everybody else has like regional boards down the US. And so Colorado is the Western regional boards. So being in California, I was gonna have to either come back to Colorado or do one of the other states in the Western regional in order to work in Colorado. So what I ended up doing is the Colorado boards, the year I graduated, took place prior to graduation, which means I was not allowed to take my clinical boards in Colorado, which was disappointing. But if you don't have if you haven't graduated, you probably should be taking your clinical boards anyway. So I ended up having to take my clinical boards in August. I think it was August. So the next boards that were available to me after I'd graduated, got my diploma, blah, 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 were in Wisconsin. So I was looking at the schedule and going, oh my goodness, I have to take this in Wisconsin. How am I gonna do this? So I'm in California, I live in Colorado, and then I gotta go to Wisconsin. It's gonna be backwards for you guys. And I had to find a patient. So I'm all over California, obviously, trying to find a patient that qualifies for the Western regional boards, while the rest of my classmates are looking for patients that qualify for the California boards. And I wasn't able to find anybody that qualified because the qualifications are different. And I ended up sending the qualifications to a dentist friend in Loveland, Colorado, and asking him to do some screenings for me. So I put word out to like my church and my high school and just anybody I could think of to try and, hey, do you know anybody that hasn't had a cleaning in a long time? And you send them my way. So again, I'm screening out in California, and my friend, he did a bunch of screening for me here in Colorado, and he found me somebody, but he didn't really know what a click of calculus was. And if you don't know, because you're not in hygiene yet, it's pretty much if you take an x-ray, there's enough tartar calculus on your teeth that on the x-ray it looks like a little white rose thorn sticking off the tooth and into the gums. And if you can catch that with your instrument under the gums and it goes, as you go past it, it's called a click of calculus, okay? So learn something new. And anyway, you have to have so many of these on so many teeth in one area of the mouth in order to qualify. You got to get that off, and then that's how you qualify for your boards. And so I sent him all this stuff, and he's like, what's a click of calculus? I'm like, you're a dentist, how do you not know that? So he and his hygienist worked really hard. They sent me this guy's x-rays. He was actually my violin teacher in high school, her daughter's boyfriend. And he hadn't had a cleaning in forever, which was great. And he was fairly young, which means the perio probably wouldn't be too bad, which is good. So they did a perio probing for me to see how deep his gums were. They checked the calculus, they took x-rays on him, they filled a couple cavities for him. They actually ended up pulling a whole bunch of teeth on him because in order to qualify, you can't have any like open, huge, carious lesions, any big cavities anywhere. And he was a meth user. And he had meth, if you don't know, just dissolves teeth. It's frightening what meth can do to a mouth. And so for him, on his left side, from about his canine back, they had to pull all of those teeth because they were just gone. They were just gone. So this poor guy in his mid-30s is getting all these teeth pulled so he can qualify for boards. And he comes in, anyway, so he qualified from what I could tell. We're down to the deadline. I had to submit. So I submitted my paperwork to take these boards in Wisconsin, and you know, it's very expensive to take the boards, so I pay my money, all that good stuff. And then I fly this guy from Colorado to Wisconsin, and then I fly, and because all of their expenses, they're on you, FYI. Clinical boards is really expensive. So I fly myself to Wisconsin, I fly him to Wisconsin, I rent us a car, I rent us 2 hotel rooms. You obviously pay for the test, and then you actually pay your patient to sit there for those 4 hours or whatever it was. I don't remember how long it was. It felt like forever at this point. But yeah, anyway, so you pay them to sit there and be your patient. And I really didn't feel good paying a meth addict cash, but what are you gonna do? I needed to pass my boards. He flew in the evening prior to the test. He comes in, I don't have a chance to look in his mouth. I take him to the hotel, we, you know, go to sleep. I wake him up early the next morning, get out of bed, dude, we gotta go. We're at the test site early. I'd driven there the day before to make sure I knew how to get there and I wasn't gonna get lost day of. I mean, worst thing is like, you're so nervous about everything, honestly. And I had to go by myself. I was totally by myself, so I flew up there Friday. I feel like I flew up there Friday and then took the test either Sunday or Monday. I can't remember, but I know it was over a weekend, so I can't remember how many days I was up there. So anyway, he flew in the night before, and I, again, have not looked in his mouth yet, so I don't actually know if he qualifies. When you take the test, again, you're submitting just a couple of teeth, and you hope they have enough teeth on the other side that if this is not accepted by the instructors, they'll take this side. And if the patient doesn't qualify anywhere, you're just out of luck. Like, unless you have a backup patient, which you want to have, or somebody else has a patient that qualified, but they have a backup, you know, and you can use their backup, you're just out of luck. So I get up there with my one guy, and we show up at the test site, and we sit down, and I look in his mouth, and I go, oh, thank you, God. He's got all the telltale signs of good tartar under his gums. He's got kind of the purplish tissue and lots of bleeding, and you could feel it really good under there with your Explorer. And he wasn't going to be, like, he wasn't real tender, which was great. That means that, you know, I could get him numb, but it was probably, like, these days, I'd probably just give him a little Oracix. I probably wouldn't even gotten him full numb, but that was part of the test. You have to give the anesthesia, too. So we're sitting there, I chart everything, you know, the timer starts and you chart everything and you send him back and you sit there and you nail bite until they send your patient back. So they go into this back room someplace and all of the testing people look at them, and I think there's 3 or 5 people on site that are like the testing instructors or whatever, and they're in the back, and they're each one of them will look at your person. And they all confer yes or no, does this person qualify? And then at the end, of course, yes or no, did this hygienist get all this stuff off? So he comes back, and then I have to get him numb. So I'd send in his perio charting and how, you know, where I had felt calculus. And I sent him back, and he came back and he qualified. And I was like, thank you, God. There were maybe 12 of us taking the test that day. It was a very small site, and we did have one girl whose patient did not qualify. And I remember the whispers going around the room that this was the second time she tried to take this test and the second time her patient had not qualified, and nobody in the room had a backup patient. So she had to go home. She paid all of that money twice and nothing. And I felt really bad for her, but again, it was yeah, I was just going, please God, help it not to be me. So my guy qualified, and we, timer starts as soon as they get back to the chair, and you get them numb, and then you take your Cavitron and you just clean like crazy, and you just, you can't do any tissue damage, so you don't clean like crazy, but you get everything off, and you double check yourself, and you triple check yourself, and you quadruple check yourself, and did you get it all off? And you have, I think it's 2 hours, which I felt was way too much time, honestly, for his calculus. There are some people, the guy I should have been working on today, which is a different story while I'm not actually at work today, but they, anyway, he would have needed 2 hours, possibly 2.5 to get him done. But the guy I had in the chair, it just popped off beautifully. Big chunks just flying out of his gums. And, you're just going, man, this is like the perfect patient. Plus, he was such a great guy. He was funny. He was so tolerant of all this stuff I was doing. He was like, girl, you got this. Calm down. He called me Tooth Fairy the whole time. He wouldn't even call me by my name. He's like, you got this, Tooth Fairy. It's all good. He was adorable. We had so much fun. So we got him finished, and you check it that one last time, and you send him into the back room, and you wait, and it feels like a freaking eternity until these patients come back. And he comes back, and he doesn't say anything to me, because they're legally not allowed to. Like, they're not actually supposed to tell you whether or not you'd passed. And so, that's it. The test is over. I take him back to the hotel. We pack our bags. I think I dropped him off at the airport first, and then I went later. I don't remember. Everything's kind of a blur, honestly, because it was so stressful. So we finished up, and I send him off, and he's like, okay, Tooth Fairy, don't worry about it. You got this. You'll have passed, or something like that. He probably didn't even say that. He was just like, I'll see you back in Colorado someday. So I go back to California and finish everything up there, and I head home. And I think there's a 10-week, if I remember right, it was like a 10-week lag between the time you take your clinical boards and the time you get your results in the mail. And that is a long 10 weeks. That's a really long 10 weeks. The whole time you are just freaking out internally. Did I get it all off? Was he truly numb? Was he not, was he lying to me? Or did I miss anything? Or was there something I could have done differently? You question yourself over and over and over. So 10 weeks later, I get notice in the mail, and that was probably the hardest thing ever to open, was that little envelope. Whether or not I'd passed, I think it was more terrifying to me than finding out I'd gotten into hygiene school. Anyway, so I opened it up, and I got a 98% on my exam, and I was so excited. Because I'm kind of an overachiever anyway, but like a 98 I thought was just really good. And it's funny how I don't remember some of my scores from some of my other stuff, but that will forever stick in my head. I got a 98%. What bugs me is, what was that 2% that I missed? Like, what did I miss? And they don't tell you. It's just, congratulations, you passed with a score of 98%, blah, 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 blah. So I'll never know, but it's like, eh. So anyway, I call this guy up, and I go, hey, guess what, I passed? And he goes, oh, hey, Tooth Fairy. Yeah, I know. What do you mean you know? He goes, oh, well, they told me the day of the test. What? He goes, yeah, they told me the day of the test. You didn't tell me? You've known for 10 weeks and you didn't tell me? Well, they told me I wasn't allowed to tell you. Well, I know, on site, but you could have told me later. You didn't have... Really? I've been stressing for 10 weeks and you know. And he was like, yeah, sorry. Love you, girl. Yeah. So anyway, that was my experience with the clinical boards. I hope your clinical boards are never that exciting where you have to like come from multiple states and you're not actually seeing your patient till the day of the test. I will see you guys next week. Have an awesome week. Keep sweet, keep smiling, keep flossing, and find me on Instagram, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.